So today we're going to examine Brandon Turner. Okay, Brandon Turner has been doing a lot of advertising about being, like the must-go-to guy to learn about real estate and investment. And so this has caught my eye lately. And surprisingly or not surprisingly, it doesn't really look like, and Brandon, I know seems like a nice guy. He's got a nice smile. He's face of Bigger Pockets for a long time, and I never really watched Bigger Pockets, to be quite honest, because it is so filled with fake gurus. But so I'm going to talk about that because this is how people get taken, to be quite honest. And I've done interviews. People that invested with, Grant Cardone and others, and they thought, well, I thought that, the exposure that he had, I just didn't do my due diligence, and then they ended up regretting it later. So I don't think there's any real difference with Brandon Turner. And if anybody wants to call up and talk about it, we can talk about it, including Brandon if you're around. But there's a live call number you see up there. But so we're going to get into this and take a look at this. And you guys know I don't associate with fake gurus. Don't do that backslapping. He does do a lot of that. I've seen him with Chris Crone. I think Ryan Pineda, Grant Cardone. These are not. Listen, fake gurus. They flock to each other because they don't have good testimonials. It's just that simple. And so Let's take a look at Brandon, and I'll be right back after this.
And listen, time is on a mission to eliminate all the snake oil and the fake gurus that fake y'all. He'll show you how to build an empire, starting with nothing but a desire. All you really need is a good mentor, not a used car bullshit. With time, you'll learn to crush it. Investing like Warren Buffett. With real estate, you cannot procrastinate. Everyone who hesitates is left at the starting gate. Hey, yo, so don't delay and join today. The mentorship and flip anything. USA, go.
It's the best thing I ever did.
All right, I'm back. So, look, I'm going to just kind of cut to the chase here. So, look, we've got this gentleman here. This is a gentleman that invested in Open Door Capital, Brandon Turner. He labels it Brandon Turner, Open Door Capital. In this one, he's calling it Investing with Gurus. And what was interesting about this gentleman, when I found his channel, he's really, you see that he's just trying to be fair, right? Saying he regrets he invested $75,000, and he first comes out, talks about it, and they weren't meeting their projected NOI. Is that right, son? He was short on the projected net operating income of the assets, and so he's but they're telling him, oh, don't worry, it's going to be okay. But you kind of see as he updates over a period of 2 years, nothing's getting better. He's not happy. And he had actually invested, I think, a smaller amount with Grant Cardone. And that's the thing. Listen, so many of these fake gurus, they come on with, I'm going to teach you how to, the tricks and all this stuff. Well, they don't know the tricks. And quite frankly, Brandon, and you can correct the record if I'm wrong. Let's just take a look here. So I looked at Brandon, and let's just check it out real quick on YouTube. You'll see he's the face of Bigger Pockets. But that's no prerequisite for being able to teach people how to make money in real estate. And so, but he interviews lots of people, right? Interviews lots of people. Again, hey, that's what that's us right there. Anyways, but that is not a prerequisite for having the chops to teach people how to make money in real estate. So basically, this is how I interpret it. He owned some assets, maybe a couple $1 million, maybe $3 million, I don't know, something like that. Not a lot. That's not very much real estate, and because it's a house for some people. But he interviewed a lot of people that done different things on Bigger Pockets, some credible, some not, and now he became a face that everybody was familiar with. But that isn't necessarily enough. You got that likability complex, likability factor, And then people say, well, you know what? He talks about everything. I know maybe he knows what he's doing. And then they jump in, and then people start to find out, hey, you know what? This ain't like we expected. So we're going to watch this video, and we can, we'll just listen to what he has to say, this gentleman. I had not watched it. I just watched a tiny bit of it. But we'll start with this, because this is where he starts in with Open Door Capital. And, again, I never met this guy. He just posted this thing. And so he's talking about this and say financial performance here. Well, we'll let him explain it. So here we go. And this is courtesy of Tyler Wayrung, your agent. And let's take a look.
And hear how Open Door Capital is with Mr. Brandon Turner. This update will not be as optimistic. So Open Door, this is the September update, the latest update that I have of 2024. I'm not going to jump into all the details here, but we'll look at the projections. I do like how Brandon gives you the, not just compared to last year, but how it compares to the projections they put together when they were ultimately deciding and determining what your return is going to be on this. So, not great at all. So, this investment's not going well.
Yeah, let's look at this. Let's look at that number he's got. So, if you look around, so you can go to, what do they got here? This is a page, I think, that is Own or Invest Clearly. It's actually an Open Door sponsored page, the way I read it. And it's got all these 5 stars, one negative, and all these 5 stars. But that doesn't really seem to jive with the general sentiment that you see, like if you go over here to Bigger Pockets. This is Bigger Pockets, right? Bigger Pockets itself. And people are saying, has anyone invested Open Door Capital? What was your experience? Curious to know. You go down here. Yes, you invested in the Lone Star portfolio. Or is your distributions and improvements are performing as expected? There are some great webinars which to go to. Rata. This one, Joanne, I think she's got a couple $100,000 in there. She said, I'm in Open Door Capital's Fund 4, and I'm extremely disappointed. By their own admittance, as I write this on 8/21/23, so this is pretty recent, right? And she says right here, this time they have paused quarterly distributions. The net operating income is now close to 40% below projections. So that's what's kind of odd, is you got a guy that's telling you he knows how to invest in real estate, he can teach you how, but it would appear he sucks, according to these folks. It's you kind of put yourself out there. You got to expose yourself to, all the stuff that's out there. Hey, Kevin, good to see you in here. So let's go back to this gentleman. Let's let him finish. I'm going to speed him up just a tiny bit. So playback speed, I'll bump him to 1 1/4, and let's listen.
At all. So, this investment's not going well. They're talking about exit strategies, preferred equity return updates. They did send out an email limiting what we, as the recipients, are allowed to talk about. So I'm not going to dive too much into this.
Oh, that's funny. So they actually got a squelch clause in here. This guy's not allowed. See, this is cult tactics. Pace Morby's got some of this stuff in his own club. No negativity. And so this makes sense why the guy's so careful how he speaks. But he's spitting out the facts either way. Pace Morby's students have told me that when they get in, they're told no negativity. Well, no negativity includes don't complain. Okay, so imagine you get in, you spend $8,000, and you're told if you complain, they're kicking you out, and you ain't getting your money back. So it's a difficult position, but it keeps peace, keeps the bad news to a minimum. But you can read between the lines. And so anybody want to comment, you comment. Anybody want to call in that has any direct information on this sort of thing, please do. But let's keep watching and listen to this gentleman.
Fund, but maybe ask yourself, if we're getting in the negative returns here and we're sending out confidentiality updates, things probably aren't going too hot, okay? Let's read distribution update. Okay, distributions remain paused. I think I got one distribution. Let's see if we can find that. I think I got one distribution from this fund before they put everything on hold, and because things from the very beginning did not go well on this one. Let's see here. Okay, so I got a couple distributions. I put $75,000 in at the end of 2021, and I got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 distributions. So for 7 months, is that right? I didn't get one for 6 months after, and then for 7 months after they first bought it, they kicked them out, and then they were like, "Oh man, this is not going so well." And let's see, the last one was almost 4 years ago that I got my last distribution. No, 2 years ago. I don't do public math. You guys know that if you've been following this channel. But yeah, this investment's not going well at all. Which, hey, there are other videos where I talk about my opinion on this investment. I like to take an extreme ownership look at this of, hey, I knew there was risk involved. I trusted in, I really saw it as me investing in Brandon Turner and the team that he put this deal together with. I gave them my money and assumed that they would make the right decisions to make this successful. My only beef that I still have with Open Door Capital and Beardy Brandon is they continue to market and push out these constant ads of how I went from 0 to 13,000 doors and $13 billion worth of capital. Invest with me. Look how successful I've been. And
Yeah, so listen, this guy's got real credibility. You don't listen to me. Listen to this guy. This guy, but this is what people don't do their due diligence. And, I don't know why anybody thought Brandon Turner does know what he's doing, to be honest. When a guy says I went from 3 million, and the guy looks like he's 40, 3 million to 11,000 doors. That's saying I went from, from apples to oranges. Doesn't really make any sense. You know what I mean? There's no quantifying number there. There's no money that means anything. And even if you said I went from 3 million, and I think he has said it, and so I went 3 million to 11 billion or a billion, again, what do you owe on that billion? Did you buy $1.5 billion worth? And now you're worth $1 billion. In other words, there's so many of these things. And if you look at the NOI, it's very possible that these investments are upside down. I mean, easily. I mean, it's just based on what we've read and what we've seen right here. So anybody got anything to write in there or comment about funds and whatnot, please do. And we'll talk about it. If you want to go live, you can jump on the phone too. But let's keep watching.
And they never talk about the crap behind the scenes like this, where deals are not going well.
And let's look at this. Let's go back just a hair. Where did I just see that? I thought right?
And $13 billion worth of capital.
This is
went
it.
from 0 to 13.
So see that 0 to 13,000 rental units. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh shit, Chris. Hang on. Chris, what's up? I'm alive.
Hey.
Oh, hang on. Sorry. Yeah, Chris, you're live right now. I don't know if you know it.
Oh, I'm live?
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah, just go tune back in on YouTube. No big deal. Sorry.
Okay.
Thanks.
No worries. All right.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
All right, that's funny. So, and see, here's this so you know, that's one of my students. And this is what you need. If you're going to have a mentor, you got to be able to get a hold of them, okay? You got to be able to get a hold of them. There's too many of these mentorships have, thousands of people and nobody knows what they're doing, including the main guru. And so then you have kids leading kids or newbies leading newbies, and it's a disaster. And but this is really interesting because in my experience, what I've seen, and even Grant Cardone's, I believe some of his, and this guy threw in 15 or 5 grand or something with Grant Cardone. He's got 75,000 with Brandon, but they're not, they haven't been killer returns. And you have to understand, when you give your money to a guru to put in a fund, you have no control. You're one of maybe 3,000 investors. In your money, you have nothing. You go to the bank and say, look, I have $200,000. I have $75,000 invested. And even if the bank's not even going to consider you, even if the thing's a rock star deal and it's making 20%, they're not going to really loan you any money on that asset. But if you go in there, I'm not getting any disbursements and it's, it's fallen 40% shy of its NOI. The bank's going to laugh you out the door. It's just people don't do their due diligence, and I feel sorry for this kid. Everybody's a kid to me, and under 40 really anymore.
doors and $13 billion worth of capital. Invest with me. Look how successful I've been. And they never talk about the crap behind the scenes like this, where deals are not going well. And this is not the only deal that they have that's not going well, because they made a lot of very optimistic assumptions, and the changes in insurance and other things that they just completely had no regard for have smacked them upside the head, which is fine. Like, we all learn, and I know things today that I didn't know 4 years ago.
Yeah, like not to invest with fake gurus. you, you learn that from Brandon, I guess. Anyways, so yeah, hey guys, don't be so quiet. Chime in here. Well, this guy here, he's owning his investment, he's owning his failure, mistakes, but and he's calling out as best as he can with staying within the constraints of his basically, NDA, for lack of a better term, because that's what it sounds like he's got. But this is real. This guy's got $75,000 doing nothing, right? And it's bad enough you make 4% or some terrible amount like that from a fund. The bottom line is he could take the $75,000 and he could double it, triple it, every year. So you go from 75 to 150, then he can go from 150 to 300 or 400, 400 to $1 million, and if you think, that's unrealistic, it's not. Listen, this is the kind of record I have. These are my students that you see at flipanythingusa.com, which while you're watching, please hit subscribe, hit like. You don't want my channel to get away from you. But if you are considering throwing in, with Beardy Brandon and, listen, if you're looking to learn how to invest in real estate, just consider what you can see regarding his success. It's not good. And I don't see any I just don't see any reason to think that he knows what he's doing. He's got a fund he brags about that doesn't do well. And then you've got, there's Better Business Bureau complaints. Somebody put this over my desk. And, their complaints, and they appear to be resolved, meaning whatever. They did whatever they did. And they got letters that come back. Thank you for taking time to share your feedback regarding your experience with us. I know that we have done some discussions already pertaining to your experience and requests, but wanted to follow up in this space, make sure that the Better Business Bureau has a response from us as well. So yeah, as long as you respond, you're kind of in better graces with the Better Business Bureau. But like this guy is worn down to say, or from the time he first started investing, he started out optimistic. Well, they said they're doing things, but now 2 years later, he's just like, what the hell? And it's terrible.
But don't continue to just put out everything's great, invest with me, and now you're pulling more money into the pool to potentially, give other investors out there on the sidelines a poor performance of something that you knew was not going well in the first place. So stop putting all these ads out there that you're the magician real estate investor, you do everything correct. And
yeah. See, listen, this guy's got credibility, right? And so, Brandon, if you want to come on, please call in. But this is the deal. Why would you project yourself to be a rock star investor and that you can teach people these things when that's not the record? The record is, your $11,000 or $1 billion in real estate, whatever you refer to it as. It's really not yours. You have a tiny piece of it, and so you really haven't gone from. In fact, if you would share us what percentage of that $1 billion is yours, is it 1%? Is it not next to nothing? Because it would be a little disingenuous to say you have 11,000 doors, because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like you're just like a phenomenal investor, but like I say, it doesn't play out. Not according to Open Door, the page that's within, that's being commented about. Invest Clearly, it looks like this is something that is managed by Open Door, so obviously they're not going to put the bad news out either. But Reddit is actually always a very good way to get good information, and of course Better Business Bureau as well. But even within Bigger Pockets community, there is an open blog in there, and people are not happy, and they're but this guy's really got a legitimate thing. Why are you telling people to invest in your in your fund or take a course and learn how to invest in it when you don't look like you know what you're doing? And I'm actually trying to find this. I'm going to see if I can find it. Oh my God, I've been seeing those Brandon Turner things. They pop up every time I turn on Instagram, and now I can't find one. But anyhow, this gentleman kind of covered it quite clearly. But so, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think? Do you think this is the thing? People don't do their due diligence, and of course they're oblivious to what's going on. And that's what happens when you don't do your due diligence. But let's listen a little more.
People throw more money in the pot for you to play around with, and then you put another ad out. I only work 4 hours a week, and this is how I build my life. well, maybe you should work a little bit more hours a week and try to fix this crap instead of just taking everybody's money and then you're sitting on the beach. I mean, that's the impression I get when I see these ads and I know the crap behind the scenes is not going well. And I know there are plenty of other people in my court who have invested with you in your other deals and in this one who feel the same way. It was really unfortunate because I think, Brandon was kind of known as the golden child of the real estate, investing world. He always did the right thing.
Why? But why? I don't know why this kid. Why? Why did you think that? Because you're watching Bigger Pockets. That's, you got to understand. The reality is, you're watching a guy that's just a podcaster that's interviewing people. Why on earth did you think he ever knew what he was doing? That's the thing. People learn a hard lesson like this, and it's terrible when you're young because that's your seed capital. That's the money that can really catapult you to success. This $75,000 could easily be $1 million in just 2 years. I've got students that have done better than that, and so, anyways, let's keep listening.
He's a very honorable man of God, and I think he's kind of just tarnishing his image, going about it this way, right? Like, take ownership, say, hey guys, look, I messed up. This deal's not going great. I'm going to try to fix it in this way going forward by doing X, Y, and Z. I am going to stop on my 4-hour a work week plan and try to do a little bit things a little different rather than sorry about your luck, but I'm still here just chilling on the beach and enjoying my best life. Sucks for you little guys out there trying to make it in the world. That's my rant today. So again, this one's not been great, but at least at least there's somebody out there sharing the real side of how these deals go behind the scenes. But guys, if you got any value out of these videos, I'd love to hear it in the comments. I answer every comment myself, and I'd love to hear kind of what you guys like, what you don't like, because I frankly just don't want to waste my time doing something that you don't get any value out of. But if you do get anything out of that, like, subscribe, share, or comment below would be greatly appreciated. But with that, guys, I'm Tyler Waverung, and we'll catch you next time.
All right. Well, Tyler Wellrung, I appreciate your video, and everybody that's watching this should. This is the thing. This kind of news. Usually, people get this news after they made the mistake. It's like that's not when you look into it. You look if you're going to throw your money into something. Look, when I invest, I know what the value of something is before I buy it. That's why I've been very successful. That's why my students do so well. Is that we know value when we go in like all these gentlemen you see along here, and I won't bore you guys that already know all this stuff. But gentlemen here, $2.5 million made, $350 in a very short term, about $1 million here by Chris who just called, about $1.5 million from Chris here. I'm sorry, Rich who's a killer. He made over $1 million between 3 pieces of land, rolled those into 2 commercial purchases and a industrial building, which is my whole goal is always to convert people from residential and land into commercial industrial office. That's what I own, many hundred thousands of square feet of now, and hundreds of thousands of dollars a month coming in. More than I ever dreamed about when I was fully started my journey, which was back when I was 19 years old. But these are real people, and I urge you to go to Flip Anything USA and check that out, because otherwise you might be like this guy, so also look, let's do this real quick. Hey, I am doing a review on your video, so we'll invite him in. Okay, on your video now. Call. Let's see if he calls in. Maybe he'll call in. 424-866. Anybody else want to call in? Please do. Yeah, all right. Anyways, so thoughts. Kevin wrote, a lot of times they turn guru because they are not good at doing, well, that's always the case. This is an interesting, Brolio says, thanks, buddy. He says, Tom's the most intelligent, successful group. He's actually in the group, so he knows. I got the best and brightest. From what I understand, Brandon was a school teacher most of his life. I think most gurus been in real estate less than a decade, and a lot of times they turn guru because they are not good at doing it. They say that those who can't do teach. How horrible is that? What a terrible statement, but it actually rings true. Those who can't do teach. It's terrible. That's why you got to look. Listen, like when I put my kids in a school, I look at the teacher, but I also look at the students. If the students aren't successful, or in this case, right, the investors, if the investors like this guy aren't successful, why the hell would I throw in or put my kid in a school when the results are so piss poor? So, anyways, you just really got to be careful, folks. You got to be careful. You can make, and I'll reflect on this. This is experience, right? This is a bit of my portfolio right here. These are all, there's tens of millions of dollars in real estate here. But what I want you to understand is look at everything's close by, and guess what? I hold the reins. I have control. If I had $75,000 like he has in a building, I can sell the building, take my money. I can borrow against it. I can create a line of credit. You can do all kinds of things. He can't do shit with that. That money is a dead asset. It's like cash in somebody else's bank account that you can't touch or do anything with. And think about this. I've got apartment buildings. I got an apartment building over here. This one here, I made about $600,000 on this building, and I only paid $110,000. So think about that. $75,000. He could have put that down, and he could have been the one that made $600,000 or $500,000. This one across the street, I made $1 million on with $230,000 or $210,000. Next door, several hundred thousand made there. And again, I show this to you guys so you understand. Like here's an asset. I made more than $1.5 million on this one right here, and I paid $240,000. I sold it for $1,725,000, but I made about $90,000 a year income on it while I held it. And those are the kind of things you want to hang on to. And it doesn't matter. I mean, some of you guys want to see houses. There's 7 or 8 houses. Actually, there's about 20 houses actually here. But in the mix with those houses, also I've got office buildings. That's a big office building. That thing. Say interest never sleeps. Well, guess what? Rent never sleeps. It's always due at the end of the month. And I remember what it was like being when I was having to pay those bills. Now I am the bill. I am the bill, and that's where you want to be. You want to be the bill. You want to be the interest rate if you got money loaned out, if you're carrying a note, or you want to be the rent. The rent comes in, but you look forward to the end of the month when you're a landlord and you got a lot of property, and your income far exceeds your debts and obligations. And here's a restaurant. There's a restaurant, houses here. Anyways, and you'll learn. I talk about what's called a barbell, and the reason is you buy around your home, and you get a cluster of properties, and then in this case you buy around your office. In this case, my office and my girlfriend's home. So I get a bunch around here. I get a bunch around here. Then I start buying up the assets in between, which usually those are on major thoroughfares. So those end up looking like commercial buildings, retail centers. This is actually a food park and actually a large office rental. That's a beautiful 3-acre corner that I bought. Got a very good deal on that. And these things that these are the kind of assets that you want to ultimately hold on to. I don't even know what Open Doors. I don't even know what. I don't even know what Open Door buys. Do they buy apartment buildings? Does anybody even know what they buy? But, buildings like this, I'm telling you, they stay full. They make great money. Anyways, Chris wrote, you want to be the, quote, you want to be the bill. What's that mean? You want to be the bill. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You want to be the landlord, not the tenant, right? You want to be the bank. Not the customer. That's funny, Chris. Yeah, it is. It's true. It's a wonderful thing. It's unbelievable. Hundreds of thousands a year from like that little building I just showed you. And then hundreds of thousands a year from all the buildings. They generate hundreds of thousands a year for sure. And collectively they bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars per month. And so. Anyways, that's where I want you guys to be. Anyways, so if you don't have my book, get a copy of my book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. It's been a bestseller on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. And, hey, somebody make a call. Somebody call in. Let's talk about something. Come on. Grab the notifications too while you're here. If you're coming in late, I have a lot of people say, hey, how come I'm not getting your notifications? I couldn't tell you. I mean, hopefully you're signed up for them, but that's an important part of it, obviously. Anybody got any other thoughts on this? What else here? All right, well, let's look around. Okay. I want to know why I'm not seeing all the ads. I mean, I get clobbered with ads constantly by Brandon. And like I say, someone was called Beardy Weirdy, right? Because he's weirdly profitable, what I mean is he doesn't seem to be very profitable at all. And, that's the thing. So many of these, oh, here we go, finally. Yay, caller. Who do I got here?
Hello, sir.
How are you doing, buddy?
Fahad, how you doing?
Good. What's your name?
My name is Fahad.
Oh, Fahad. Fahad, I've talked to you before, right?
Yeah, that's right. What do you want to talk about today?
Well,
I met someone like you, actually.
You met someone like me? I hope that's good. Anyways.
Locally. No, locally, I met a guy. I'm meeting him on Saturday. He's willing to show me the HUDs of some deals that he did to show me that he actually made some deals.
And why is he doing this?
I called on a property that he had a sign for sale sign.
Yeah.
And I started talking to him. And basically, he started telling me, we started talking, and he started telling me about the deals that he did. So I was interested, because I've been following you for a long time.
Sure.
So he ended up saying, okay, I'll show you what I've done. And he basically wants me to invest in a property that he's found off market.
How much money do you have, Fahad? Fahad, how liquid are you?
I am looking.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not that liquid, but I'm going in to get a line of credit. I'm seeing how much line of credit I can get to do the deal.
Well, let me just tell you something. Don't do it, okay? Just don't do it. You shouldn't have to rely on somebody else to make money. You should just rely on yourself. You have to understand and know value. If you hold the reins yourself, it's a lot of people. Listen, there's people that would rather throw money at something, and then if it gets lost, that's the consolation. Is for them is, oh, good. Is that it's the consolation prize? Is that you don't have to take responsibility for the loss. You go, I didn't lose it. This guy lost it that I trusted. I trusted him, and he lost the money. You know what I mean? And it's a cop out. You know what I mean? If you got to own it either way. If you invest with somebody else and they lose your money, guess what? Shame on you for being a fool and handing your money to somebody. And you said this guy you think is kind of like me. I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. I wouldn't be interested in your money. I don't want your money. I don't want your money. I don't want you to invest with me. I don't need your money. I don't want to split the profit with you. Why would I? You follow me?
Yeah.
And so that's the problem. That Grant Cardone, you guys remember Grant Cardone?
You and you got a good attitude. You ain't a little bitch.
Oh, there he is.
You ain't a little baby. You ain't a crybaby. You ain't stupid baby. You ain't dumb.
You guys can even
Yeah, I need my money. I got to buy a
you got
Rolex.
Grant Cardone, and guys that really have no real estate chops. He's bought property with other people's money, okay? And he'll say, this is the best investment in the world. And I did a video on him a long time ago, and he said, I just got a check for $800,000, and my investors got a check for $800,000. My investors got a check for, $1,200,000. Well, of course, some math is, so you got 40%. What did you do for that 40%, Grant? What did you do for it? And of course, it wasn't clear. And it's clear to me. I can read can read the subtext, what's going on. But the bottom line is, if you get a piece of everybody's action, 4% is great. If you don't have any money in it and you're getting 4% return off of other people's money, it can be fantastic. Do it times 3,000, 4,000 people. Well, good for you. But And there's no risk, right? You got other people's money tied up, not your money, other people's money tied up. And so it's, I've had very few partners in my life, and the partners that I have had have made a ton of money, and, millions, one of them. And because I don't have many partners, number one. But it doesn't always work out that way, and I know as somebody that owns, I have big assets, right? I have big buildings, offices, commercial, industrial, and so I get contacted regularly by people who are saying, hey, we have a big client that has $17 million or $40 million in money. They need to buy this many assets, and they're doing a 1031, and they're looking to buy stuff. Or there's a fund, even worse. We've got a fund, and we're looking to fill the hole, and we got to buy something. In other words, they're under the gun to buy something. They're not even asking the right questions about, is this a good deal or not? In other words, they're simply buying because they're buying with other people's money, so they don't respect the money. It's just like when you inherit money, you don't respect the hard-earned times, or you inherit a building or a piece. People squander assets all the time, and it's because they didn't earn them. They didn't earn them, and so when somebody's out there investing other people's money, they didn't earn that money, so they don't hold it to the high threshold that they should. I take it as a very serious responsibility. That's why I really don't even do it. It's just in rare occasions that I have, and I always hold the reins. And I'm always here's the other difference, Fod. I'm the majority shareholder because I have the most money in it. It's very comforting. If anybody ever invests with me, they know that I have money in this. I have skin in the game, and they know I don't want to lose money. I'm not going to lose money. And so they've got that protection. That's what you want. You want somebody that actually has a vested interest, some real money in there. But yeah, so Fod, Fod, work on making
Don't do it, right?
Well, yeah, you don't have any money anyways. And I mean, listen, what you need to do is, if you're going to spend a little money right now, and we've talked, spend a little bit of money on getting educated. You know what I mean? Get a little education, and then you'll know what to do with the money that you have, especially if you're going to take it out of your home. People take money. Listen, Chris Crone, there's a guy that just jabbers constantly, like Pee-wee's Playhouse. He bounces around his building that he has, and inviting people. This is great advice. Look at this. Read this article. And he's reading an article. He's an article reader, but in the end, he's just trying to get your phone number and email so he can find out. Hey, what do you have in your 401k? Do you have equity in your home? Let me show you how you can pull it out. And then he dances around numbers that aren't very quick for people to understand. But in the bottom line is you have to understand there's no, and especially like even for this guy that we were just talking about, it's not a crime to fail. In other words, you can tell people, and I don't even see even Brandon, like say Brandon's out there saying, he's fantastic and he sits on the beach and he doesn't spend more than 4 hours a week watching Open Door, and then you're sitting here bitching about Open Door sucks and that your investment is shit, and it's not near hitting the NOI that you had expected and were told it would. It's not a crime to be wrong. If you can't, it's very difficult to prove intent. Now, there's people that swindle people into getting into funds, and they know they're never going to pay as good as they are, and they can still say, "Well, I intended for it to be great, but it didn't happen." And but I do think this guy's got a really good argument. Why are you telling people that you can get them these great returns and they should invest with you when the investments that you put me and other people in suck and they're not doing well? How do you come back from that? And Brandon Turner, if you're watching, please, there's a phone number right there. Call in, because I really do wonder how that jives with you. I don't know. It's like the right hand doesn't tell you what the left is doing. I guess you know what I mean. I think it's very discrediting that what this guy has brought up, and so I think it should be talked about. Kevin wrote, I've heard a guru with my own ears telling people to pull equity out of their primary home to buy the course and make some money. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Well, that's just the beginning, Kevin. A lot of times these guys, their course sucks anyways. So what they do is when they get people in, the real thing is pull a bunch of money out of your home, invest with me, and maybe you get a, you know, 8, 10, 20% return. But in reality, it's usually kind of the results of what this guy's got. You know, it might be 4%, but then all of a sudden, you know, things get shaky, and then, oh, we're not funding, you know, and so now you're not getting the disbursement you were counting on, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. Even this guy, you can tell this guy wants to just scream. He's so angry and frustrated, and he's keeping monotone because he's under basically what he described is he's under an NDA. He can't complain. You know what I mean? And it's similar to what we were talking about with Pace Morby earlier. People are told you can't, no negativity, which means don't complain. That's negative. So, anyways, Fuad, what are you doing to better yourself and to learn how to make money? You know, everybody should be very, very excited. The country's going under new management, you know, with this election, and it's going to be much better than it has been, and you're going to see huge changes. You've already got, you know, Elon Musk and Vivek, you know, put in charge of the waste and cutting, you know, I mean, that's taxpayer money they're talking about saving. Taxpayer money, you know, that's us, that's all of us. And, you know, pulling oil out of the ground, that employs people, employing people in America. Guess what? The money goes in the bank accounts here, gets spent here. Yeah, listen, I've owned companies where, you know, shitloads of imports are coming in that are competing with me. And you know, they copy your damn product, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's just very difficult to enforce unless you have a direct patent. But so that's all. Anyways,
I'm reading your book.
Yeah. Have you've probably read it?
I'm reading your book.
Yeah. What chapter are you on?
I'm rereading it. Yeah.
It's a good book. I even read my own book, just so you know. Because when you write a book, let me tell you something, when you write a book, you kind of write down everything that's important. And so it's good to remind yourself about what's important, too. It's fantastic exercise. But anyways, so, hey, it's Friday night. You know, hope everybody has a great weekend. Students in my class, it's probably going to be a short class tomorrow. I'm actually going to go to a shooting event, a handgun, kind of a tactical thing. With my son, and we're going to check that out. Go shoot some guns and watch some other people, you know, shoot up a gallery. You know, it's kind of one of those things where like a SWAT team coming in and you watch, they're competing, shooting for points, that sort of thing. Fuad, where do you live? What part of the world?
Salt Lake City.
Oh, okay. And how old are you?
38.
All right, dude. And how come you don't have any money? You have equity, right?
I have equity, yeah.
Right. And do you consider yourself a good saver?
Yes. I just saved 20 grand. I started from zero since the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
And I've got 20.
And yeah, but you have that 20. How much money is this guy looking for you to pull out of your bank, or you know, or pull out of your home to invest with him?
110.
Okay,
He
that's
wants
your
to buy
equity.
$350,000 commercial property, and I'm amazed. I've never seen a property for $350,000 commercial property in our area.
Well, how big is it?
So he's saying that there's 0.18.
Okay, so it's like 20% of an acre. It's pretty tiny. How big is the?
Yeah.
How big is the building?
Well, before he shows me the property, he wants me to sign a contract with him that outlines the details of our partnership.
I would sign an NDA saying I won't tell anybody about your property if it's. I mean, you got nothing to lose. It's not your deal; it's his deal. But I wouldn't sign a contract that, you know, I wouldn't exchange any money at this point. That's for certain. Hey, Anderson, good to see you in here. But yeah, so, you know, and I'm actually in Salt Lake. I'm looking at Salt Lake from Google right now. You know, other than that nasty lake you guys have, does anybody go in the water there? I've never seen a boat. Is it just too toxic, or what's going on over there with the lake?
Yeah, the lake is not. It's salt, so It smells.
Just brine. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, this is the beauty is, man, look, you got a lot of farm. What's the agriculture there?
I would imagine hay,
Oh, really?
alfalfa, this type of stuff.
Yeah, there is money. Hey, Grant Lee, good to see you in here. So I can tell you, guy, that one year we had a drought, and we had floods. It was kind of a weird time. This was probably like 1992, something like that. And this guy bought 80 acres. He'd had 80 acres, and he understood that there was a potato shortage for whatever reason, or onion shortage. So he just grew onions that year, and had a decent crop. But he made $400,000 on his 80 acres of onions. You know what I mean? That more than paid for his land. And there are certain wine, like in Napa, which I love Napa. I'm a big fan of Cabernet, that's what's out there. Let's go out to Napa just a little bit here, which I'm actually planning on going out there sometime soon, I hope. Go up and see Ken in my class. You got a beautiful home, great accommodations. Appreciate that, Ken. So look, in Napa, just give you an idea, they have these areas where they grow wine. Different regions, and there's different, you go up the valley here, and then there's just different qualities in the soil, from some volcanic stuff to the rocky stuff is different than the stuff that's in the good earth, like the earth would be down in the valley, the loose dirt. Then you get some of the wines that are up on the side of the hill. They have very distinct qualities that are. I'm actually making my mouth water a little bit thinking about it. But think about this. An acre. I think I can. Somebody maybe help me out. Anyway, just say there's 300 cases per acre. 300 cases per acre. Now, a bottle of wine, you guys, if you've ever drink cheap wine, I did when I was younger, and I never cared for wine until, I could afford to buy, $80 to $150 bottles. That's kind of my zone. And it's delicious. But the thing is you get 2 bottles of wine, they both come from a grape, they're both from the same area. One's $8 and the other one's $150. So you think about how wildly profitable you can be with just chemistry, because really that's what wine is. It's chemistry, right? The sommeliers, the guy that these guys make $200,000 a year per winery that they work for, that they go and taste and help them dial it in. It's a really really interesting. It's an interesting business. But these acres out here of wine country used to be, like in '92, they were probably $200,000 an acre. Now they're $1 million an acre. And here's what's great: if you know how to grow wine, if you know how to produce wine, even at $1 million an acre, you can make 35-40% on that land if you know what you're doing. Okay, I do not. So, but maybe someday I'll delve into it. It takes 10 years before you start actually growing grapes. Yeah, I don't want to grow grapes. I just want to make wine. That's what I would do. But but I would buy established fields, right? I would buy established fields. So anyways, those of you just kind of hear us being critical of Beardy Brandon. He's started Open Door Capital, or he had something to do with it. Promotes it like crazy. And guys like this here, and there seems to be many of them, you can look it up on Bigger Pockets, people that are interested, that have invested or talking about it, not good. And at the same time, Brandon is, advertising like crazy to, get into his, investment group, which may be a ploy to get you to get in, to try to invest with him, which if that's the case, then he is really in trouble, because there is zero reason based on these complaints that anybody would want to invest with him. But it also goes to what do you have to offer as a mentor? What you've created here is not good. It's not good. I mean, when I show people what I've done, I say, invest with me because of what I've done, and then I point to what I've done, and I go, yeah, 100 grand here, 500 there, 300,000 here, $1 million here. You know what I mean? Those are reasons, those are incentives to listen to me, and that's by design, of course. And but I don't understand why anybody would not do their due diligence. Number one, that's what I'd say all the time. The fool and his money are soon parted, and that's really, I kind of wonder, and I don't have time to do it right now, but it would be interesting to see at what time did Tyler invest with this guy, Brandon? If there wasn't complaints 2 years prior to that, you know what I mean? And I wouldn't be surprised. Because people don't do their due diligence. So, hey, Tyler, maybe have you on the show. But that's it. So anyways, Fod, thanks, buddy, for calling in. And anybody else wants to call in, unless you got another, unless you want to talk about something else, Fod. I don't know where to go with you on this one, other than I would tell you.
Well, he gave me one tip. I don't know. What do you think about this? This guy?
Sure.
He gave me one tip. He said, go out, look at some businesses that are not doing too well, or a restaurant or something where people aren't going in, and approach the owners of those businesses that aren't doing well.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I mean, if you see a failing business, this is kind of 101. You see a failing business, you see a property that's not being kept up, that looks like shit, there's a problem. If the owner's in the building and it looks like hell, that could be gold. If the building looks like hell and the people in it aren't the owner, that could also be good. That's just kind of common sense. When people don't take care of their assets, there's a problem. But where there's a problem, there's profit. There's money. There's money. There's money in good times and bad times for different reasons. But there's always money. I've made money. I've been investing for 43 years. I've invested every year that I've been in business. I bought something, and and I've always made money. And I can't say that I make less money in a downturn than I do when things are going great in an upturn, but probably have to say I make a little more when things are rolling along better. But, it's more competitive looking for the deals at that time. But at the same time, there's more foolish money out there being spent. So it does, it is called trickle down, and it does happen. It's a real thing. Of course, if you don't know what that means, it's just the theory is the people that spend money, it trickles down, and it does. I employ people, I hire people, I might borrow money and build a building, or I might, buy something big or expand on a business. I do that with my money, and that's why tax breaks go to people that have money. Everybody gets tax breaks sometimes, but it's important to give businesses a tax break, because that's what enables them to take a chance and create jobs. So anybody got anything to comment? Come on, man. We got 35 people in here. That's not bad.
Yeah. He was actually telling me to sell. He was pushing me to sell one of my properties.
To him? To him?
No.
Maybe he is like
sell
me.
one of them
If he's trying to get you to sell it to him, he is like me. So beware. There's a funny thing people say, my friends that know me, I'd say, well, I'll buy it. And they go, Tom, if I sell it to you, I know I'm selling it too cheap. If I'm willing to buy it, it means it's being sold too cheap. That's just kind of a given. So anyways. But so, yeah,
Well,
go ahead. Let's hear the advice he said. What's he telling you to sell? What do you have?
Well, I have one property with about $250,000 in equity, and I'm making $1,000 a month off it. He's telling me to sell that and invest, find a place to invest and make. I should be making like closer to like
if you're making, what'd you say? You're making $1,000 a month on $250,000. So you're making about a 5% return.
Yeah.
It's not great. The only ones that don't get tax breaks, according to BGB, are, well, that's not exactly true. You got a tax break coming right now. I can tell you right now. Because this is one of the campaign promises, and Mr. Trump says promises made, promises kept, and I believe him. I've met him. I've talked to him, folks. He's on the right side for the people. Not so much like if you really, I could almost relate to politicians are like fake gurus, right? A lot of bullshit. And, you don't even want to see what they're doing in the back end. But that's kind of how fake gurus are, really, of all types. But he's not one of them. And just like it's hard to know who's good among the fake gurus, if they all kind of sound the same, you got to look deeper. You got to look deeper to make sure that the credibility is there. But anyways, what I was going to say is, there's going to be no tax on tips. There's going to be no tax on overtime. They're actually talking about not taxing people that are on Social Security. And I think all that's great, but at the same time, while you're doing that, you better do a lot for business to spur employment. Because if you cut the taxes, it's easier to throw money and start hiring people, or take chances. You don't mind taking some chances if it's worth taking a chance. So Kevin Silva wrote, back to Bob. He's talking about W-2 workers. It's a lot tighter. Well, he's explaining a tax break that I'm not familiar with, but I appreciate you doing that, Kevin, because I'm actually a fan of Trump. So, Fod,
Can I tell you why I don't want to sell?
Sure.
Can I tell you why I don't want to sell?
Yeah.
I have such a low tax basis, so I'll have to pay taxes. And then I pulled money out of it, so I'm into it on an infinite return I don't have any money in it.
So you have listen, the bottom line is if you don't have something to do with that money that will do better, just sit on it. Just sit on it. In other words, you're getting 5%, which isn't a lot, but you're getting 5%. So maybe what you can do is, start looking for something better. This is like really simple for everybody watching. When I was started out 19 years old, forget the first property I bought. I was fortunate that it was owner carried. But after that, I was just like 19 years old, no credit, no money. And so I would look for properties. I would get owner financing terms if I could, and those I could afford usually to buy by myself. And then stuff that was a great deal worth, maybe, there's money to be made. I would take a partner, use their money, buy it, close it, sell it immediately. That's always my rule. Sell it immediately. I want to take the money out of the deal, and I want to, and because there's power in that. If you have to take a partner and you're weak, well, every time you and that partner sell off something, and you got your half of the money, you become stronger with every deal, and pretty soon you have enough cash. You'll come into a deal, and maybe you figure you're going to need a partner for it. But before you realize it, you get it negotiated, and you realize, hey, I can swing this myself with the cash that I've made, taking 50% on the last, 5 deals or whatever. And now you buy it by yourself. And you make all the money next time. And your confidence grows as your skill set grows, and you pretty soon, instead of making, $10,000, $20,000 on a piece of property, you're making $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on a property. That is how it is, and it is that simple. In fact, I love looking at this picture that you see behind me right here, this one right here. That's one of my students. He got a $3.5 million property for $975,000. He made $2 million plus that day. And beautiful building. It's near the Kentucky International Airport and Burlington Coat Factory, and a beautiful overpass. And so listen, if you just got here, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and go to my YouTube channel. Check out my YouTube channel. I've probably done 1,400 videos, and just about anything I talk about, there is no fluff. It's to the point, and you should learn something out of anything. That's kind of the most common thing that I hear. And if you want to help my channel, under the video, make a comment about the video that you just watched. And that actually helps the algorithm and helps me get more people. You've heard me already talk a little bit politically in here. I get censored pretty heavily by YouTube because I have talked about things like that, and I don't care. I don't like it. I do not like it. But at the same time, I got to speak my mind. I can't be quiet on that in that regard. Also, Kevin wrote, also realize that when you start using leverage breaks, you need to pay an accountant to do that work. Liam just chimed in. Don't be afraid of paying capital gains. Yeah. Now listen, those are rich people problems. Complaining about taxes, complaining about capital gains. You know what I mean? Because that's really a rich people problem, and it's a good problem to have. And there's workarounds on that. There's things you can do. It helps to have a mentor. Believe me, I'm a good one. And that's really one of the things you need if you can do it. And Fuad, you could use it, but like I say, if you got $250,000 equity, dude, spend a little money. And because you look at, you're interested in real estate, you're interested, and you can afford to get the gold and information, but you're not doing it. You're kind of getting it on the slow and the cheap, the way you're doing it, and that's okay. I'm not pressuring you one way or another. I don't care if you're in the class or not. But you sound like a nice guy. You sound like you're earnest. So consider it. Consider it, and we'll have a conversation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll get off the line now.
Okay, I'll let you go. Thanks, Fad. Appreciate you
All right.
dropping in.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, it's Friday, folks, and anyways, I thought this was interesting, so I'll say thank you to Tyler Werung. Nice video, and it's big of you to share your the downside, and you're probably saving somebody that was thinking about throwing in, probably helping them avoid what could be a major disaster for them. Fun back talking, Liam was saying sell it and take, don't worry about the capital gains. Yeah, I mean, if you're in long-term capital gains, Fod, your damage isn't that bad. You know what I mean? I mean, you might have to give up 50 of that 250, but the bottom line is now you have 200,000 that is yours to play with as you please, and it's right there all the time. I try to, where I can, I try to roll my gains through a 1031 mechanism in general. But it's not always possible, but I'm not going to throw myself into a bad investment just so I can, avoid capital gains. I'd rather just take my lumps and then use the money to buy wisely after that, and I'll more than make up for whatever I paid in taxes. All right. Yeah, hey, thanks, Kevin. Appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. And I'm going to wrap it up as well. Liam, everybody that's in here, always good to see you guys. Anderson, Lynn, Leo, and others. It's a fantastic group that we have in our mentorship. And anyways, I'll look forward to seeing you guys here again soon. I got a Tyler Cobble video. I did a review on Tyler Cobble. Those of you interested in commercial or flex space, take a look at that. And otherwise, we'll see you guys probably next week. I'll be back Monday. I'm trying to do a blog daily. I'm trying to do this every day around 4 o'clock. Which, guys, tell me right now while we're in here, we got 25 people in here, what is a good time? What do you think is the best time for me to do a video like this? Is this the best time? Obviously, you guys make it here. But I just wonder if there isn't a better time. That's also good for me. Okay. But, all right. Anyways, let me know in the comments. And if you would, it's always helpful if you want to help my channel, comment under the video, where everybody else does the regular spot. People that get to see it late. 2 a.m. Okay, Liam. Was that? Is that when the bars close and you're free? This time works well for Kevin. Oh, 8 p.m. Okay, that's Russ because he's got kids. Eastern time, so 5 p.m. for BGB. Appreciate this input. Everybody else, come on. Let me know. How about on weekends? Tell me what time on a Sunday. Sunday, I sign most of my students into my class when I have sign-ups for the mentorship. I do it on Sundays. But Sundays are kind of good for me. Sometimes, not always. He means 2 a.m. European time. Yeah. Yeah, that's great, Leo. Appreciate that. Yeah, he's an early riser. But all right, as usual, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for hanging out. It's really a wonderful thing that just have like-minded people, and real estate there's just nothing like it, folks. There's just nothing like it. And so those of you that are interested, just remember real quick, you can jump here to apply for mentorship, and it's just a tiny little form, or you get in a webinar. Of course, my book, you definitely should get my book if you don't have my book. And anybody will tell you that's ever bought it. It's got fantastic reviews. But the other thing is, remember, I'm doing Thursday webinars, right? Thursday webinars, 7 p.m. Central. You want to learn about real estate, skip the bar, go to the webinar, take 20 minutes, and it could change your life. It really can. And it has for so many people, including Liam in here. It's just, you'll be a killer investor in no time, and no bullshit. And I'm just not capable of it. It's just not what I plan on doing. So again, hit that subscribe button, like button. We'll see you guys here next week.
And listen, time is on a mission to eliminate all the snake oil and the fake gurus that fake y'all. He'll show you how to build an empire, starting with nothing but a desire. All you really need is a good mentor, not a used car bullshit. With time, you'll learn to crush it. Investing like Warren Buffett. With real estate, you cannot procrastinate. Everyone who hesitates is left at the starting gate. Hey, yo, so don't delay and join today. The mentorship and flip anything. USA, go.